Hello. Hello, check. Hello, check, mic testing. Hello, check.
And I think the next time I had a talk with him, he said, I had to talk with the night guy and he said, I like that. Village will need it up. Studying for policy, trends and all. I still hated that they removed FI. I love FI. I'm just saying in college now, no attendance issues. It was so good. It was all a political. Any chain wise. So that's where you're looking at everything. But I have experienced, I have worked with
Good evening, everybody. Please be seated. Before I get on to a detailed welcoming, may I request the Bishop of Delhi and the Chairman of our college, Right Reverend Waris Kimasi, to lead us in a word of prayer.
Shall we pray? Gracious Lord, we come before you and give you thanks for this time you have given to us. We also acknowledge your blessings bestowed upon each one of us, and especially on our college, St. Stephen's. Thank you, Father, that this college was established to witness your love and your ministry on this world. Thank you, Father, for your guidance, your help, time to time you have given to us. We are thankful for the parents who sent their children to this college for education. And we are really grateful for our staff, teaching, non-teaching, for our principal, for the members of governing board who run this college, that we are witnessing your holy name. Especially, we are here today to give thanks for a special time of this new course which you are going to introduce. Thank you, Father, for Brother Reggie Abraham, who has offered himself to help us to run this special course in public administration and all these courses for the benefit of your people and for the community. Father, we commit ourselves into your hands and send this program in your hands. Let your Spirit lead and guide us, that whatever we spend time here in your presence, we all may be blessed by that and glorify your holy name. And this we ask in the name of our Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
May I now request one of our junior members to come up forward and present a bouquet to His Grace and our chairman, Right Reverend Wallace Kimasi. Xenia, our first year student, an active volunteer. Bouquet for our General Secretary, Mr. Alvin Massey, General Secretary of the Church of North India. And for our donor, who is the reason for the first chair in public policy in our college, a bouquet from all of us presented by Merrill, student from third chemistry. Your Grace, Right Reverend Wallace Kimasi, Bishop of Delhi and Chairman of the College. Mr. Alvin Massey, General Secretary of the Church of North India, member of the Supreme Council of St. Stephen's College, and also of the governing body. Mr. Reggie Abraham, Managing Director of Aban, and also my dear friend, members of the college governing body, distinguished guests, alumni, faculty, and my dear junior members. Welcome to this special day and this special event. I consider it a great blessing to have each one of you here on this day to share in the happiness of the occasion. God has, in His infinite mercy, bestowed upon this college men and women who have helped college spread the light of education. This illustrious institution, named after St. Stephen, did not come just like that. It has come up because of the efforts of men and women who have given it their all. Founders Day on the 7th of December every year encapsulates this. But there are other occasions as well when this truth is brought to light. Today is one such day. This day has a triple significance. One, it marks the formal launch of the St. Stephen's Center for Advanced Learning. Two, it marks the formal announcement of a chair in public policy, the first such chair in our college. And three, it marks the beginning of one of the programs that the center will launch, the program in public policy. I would like to take a little time to talk briefly about each of these three. College is legendary. Best institution in India, very high cutoffs, top-notch alumni. Everyone knows all of that. Knowing is one thing, but actualizing and putting that knowledge into action is another thing altogether. College has probably the most distinguished set of alumni anywhere in the world. And we have not really tapped into that potential. I also realized some time ago by reading what is inscribed in the foundation stone just outside this hall that sound learning is a rare treasure. The St. Stephen's Center for Advanced Learning intends to promote sound learning, solid learning, useful and relevant learning across disciplines, including those which are not on offer currently in college, and in keeping with the motto of the institution, Ad De Gloria. To cater to the needs of those who thirst for knowledge and seek to use it wisely, not just in India, but in the whole world as well. That is the purpose of the St. Stephen's Center for Advanced Learning. I am happy to announce that our faculty in charge of this program is Mr. Sanjay Rao Aide. Two young people. Yes. Two young people, Mr. Blesson Matthew and Ms. Davina Smith, both from college, have been instrumental in putting together this first program. Their dedication and enthusiasm are an embodiment of what St. Stephen's is all about. As a child and as a young man, I had a friend. A friend whose love and support helped me open up my mind to my own strengths and to the many opportunities that lay before me before I finally decided to become a teacher. That friend is no more. He passed away in 2003 at the age of 34. Today, through the generous benevolence of Mr. Reggie Abraham, there is an opportunity to let Rennie Abraham's name and what he has stood for pass on to posterity. The chair in public policy is endowed by Mr. Reggie Abraham, and I shall shortly call on him to announce for the first time in public and formally the chair in its entirety. The chair marks a beginning towards effective use of resources. For my friends, of what use is it if a man earns the whole world and loses his own soul? Mr. Reggie Abraham, my dear friend Rennie, and the whole Abraham family, I thank you on behalf. I assure you, your trust is well placed, and it is a short-term program. There is an urgent need for such a program to educate our young men and women, the future, not just of India, but of the world, to educate them to go out braggarts, full of sound and fury, whose works betray the evil and hate, development and peace. I hope such young men and women will be nurtured in this college, reasons for which Right Reverend Waris K. Masih, Bishop of Delhi, to.
Very good evening. Good evening. Why are you so scared actually? Dr. Shakis Tharoor is supposed to be here, but I start my address with him only. The governing body of the college, respected and my dear students. It gives me great pleasure to be a part of the launch of St. Stephen's Center for Advanced Learning and the announcement of the chair in short-term course on public policy and international relations. Establishing college through a generous endowment by Mr. Reggie Abraham, and I am really thankful for that. I also congratulate Professor John Burgess, the principal of the college, and his team for this initiative. St. Stephen's College is a suitable institution to offer this course. The reason is that the students of this college serve in politics, in bureaucracy, and in judiciary of our country. Several of them who are our alumni will deliver lectures during the term of this course, as we are told by principal. I'm also delighted to announce that a chair will be established for public policy in the coming semester. This will give a formal character and ensure continuity of this course. Granted that we have a national constitution prepared under the direction of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, and that there is an Indian Penal Code, but culture and society always undergo changes in the course of history. Therefore, the relevance of this course cannot be doubted. Public policy is the heartbeat for drafting new laws and enacting them in the Parliament to address changing social and cultural realities. Similarly, the judiciary also has to give decree in the case of conflicting situation. Therefore, in order to address emerging social situations, new laws have to be enacted in the Parliament for the interest of people. for such enactments, whether by the Parliament or by the judiciary, the public policy comes as an aid to the government to address a public issue. In other words, the public policy is the light that provides direction to enact laws and decrees for the benefit of the people. When we are launching this course, Public Policy and International Relations, I assure my blessings and praise to all of you, and I'm sure that you will gain relevant insights through this course to learn how to rigorously examine public issues and to implement ethical solutions that support public good. And this kind of knowledge will not only help the state and judiciary to enact laws or pass decrees, but this will also help the non-government organizations, cultural institutions, and religious organizations to make their own policies for the benefit of people. And I am sure that this will help a college to bring students and prepare them for this course, and they may be benefited. God bless all of you, and my sincere prayers always there for all of you and for the faculty members as well as the students of this college. God bless you all.
Thank you, Your Grace, for your very encouraging words. May I now request you, on behalf of all of us, to present a token of our appreciation, of our love, of our affection, and of this occasion of welcoming Mr. Reggie Abraham and the Aban Group into the St. Stephen's family. A souvenir and a memento. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, alumni, not just present here, but also in the far corners of the world, from wherever you are watching. Faculty members, junior members, our new young students into the public policy program. I now call upon our generous donor, Mr. Reggie Abraham, Managing Director of Aban, to formally and in public to announce the chair in public policy for the first time. And as he comes up, may I request all of us to gratefully acknowledge with a standing applause the generous and much valued support offered by him to college, to our young people, and through them to the world. Mr. Reggie Abraham.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, students. I have great pleasure in announcing the Aban Chair in Public Policy in memory of late Sri M.A. Bishop of Delhi, Chairman of the College, Principal John Verghese, esteemed member of Parliament, Sri Sashi Tharoor, who we are waiting for him still, and other dignitaries who are present here, and satisfaction in this new association, which has been established today through the Aban Chair in Public Policy, established in memory of late Sri M. A. Abraham and late Sri Rennie Abraham at St. Stephen's College. My father has been long interested in education and had promoted it actively during his lifetime. As a policy, the company he founded has also a stated policy to support initiatives in both education and health. My family, including my late brother Rennie Abraham, have also at all times been keen promoters of education and educational initiatives. I know St. Stephen's College stands at the top of the educational pyramid, not only because of its high cutoffs, but also because of its high ideals and standards in serving the country and the world. The alumni of this institution are legendary. Public policy for me is a way of helping people understand through knowledge and strategies how they can serve people to make the world we live in a better place. I wish and pray this small effort from my part will turn out to be a blessing for all of us, for the college, the alumni, for my company, for the country, and for the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay Abraham. I know you are a man of few words, but you're a man of affirmative action. Thank you for your kind words and for the Ban endowment towards a chair in public policy. We are coming to the end of our formal program. I just got a message that our chief guest and the inaugural speaker for the day is late by about 10 minutes. So please be a little patient. I can assure you that it will be worth it. In the meantime, let me try to make use of time by proposing a vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, dear alumni, faculty, junior members, including our new batch of 36 young men and women who have, through a very stringent process, been selected to be the first batch of students on this course in public policy. I want to especially thank Mr. Ajay Dua and Mr. Deepak Mukherjee for going through a very strenuous interview process and for helping us select these young men and women. Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for being here. It's a day, it's a weekend when I know you could have used the time for your personal activities, for other commitments that you probably have. But you have chosen to give your time, take the effort of traveling across Delhi, from different places, including from outside of Delhi. And thank you. Your presence here makes a very big impact, not just on me, but on the entire college. It's, like they say, a shot in the arm for all of us. I want to thank some people who have been responsible for this course. Thank you, Blessin and Davina. I would like you to come up on stage, please, both of you. Mr. Blessin Matthew and Ms. Davina Smith. Mr. Blessin Matthew and Davina Smith have been responsible. Ms. Davina Smith. She is somewhere here, and that's exactly how she works. She's all over, getting people, doing good things. Is Davina here? While they take a little time to come here, let me place on record my sincere thanks to Dr. Karen Gabriel and Mr. Sanjay Rao Vaide. They very willingly volunteered to assist in advice, in ever-ready help and support for the program. But to come back now to Blessin and Davina. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to introduce these two young people to you if you don't know them already. They are from college, and it's amazing what young Stephanians can do. And I had the idea for a public policy program, but they worked it out. And both of them, you should see their energy. You should see about their work. Yet to see young people as enthusiastic and as devoted as them. Blessin and Davina, thank you very much for what you are doing. May God continue to bless your work here. Thank you. In a moment. But let me also tell you about the public policy program. All of us are aware that St. Stephen's College has brilliant alumni. People who have passed out from this college and who have gone on to share their knowledge and expertise with the world, and go, you name it. And if you look at college, you will notice that there are two exemplary qualities that identify people from this institution, and that is the quality of excellence and the quality of service. In education, if you see, in our own midst, we have Professor Gurmeet Singh. He's here with us in the front row. He leads and there are others, including there is a fine person here who taught in this college many years ago, Mr. Kalyan Roy Chowdhury. He's there with us, and he has nurtured generations of young men and women to go out into the world and do their best. So we are very grateful to you for your presence here, madam. Thank you for your presence here. In every field, I can go on and on, but let me take a couple of other fields as well. Please. Mr. Vishwajit Bhattacharya. Mr. Diljit Titus. Field that they have have chosen college, that you into this college service. You are taught to do your job well so that you in turn will take it out to the world and serve the people. That is what these 138 years of the existence of this college means. And I have a request that each one of you here will bless these children as they begin there. And very necessary across to the world which needs it so badly. I will of Dr. Shashi. Thank you for now, but I'll come back a little later. us are aware of the horror that Delhi traffic is. At least we are in a closed environment away from the elements and the horrible Delhi traffic. But our speaker is still caught up in traffic, and so he'll take a few more minutes. Please be a little more patient.
चलते हैं
इधर से ही चले जाएंगे वो कई लोग खाएंगे मैं बीच में
You see the signs. Our chief guest is closer to college. 3 minutes away from college. gentlemen, let me go through this process of introducing our chief guest for the day, the inaugural lecture for the program in public policy. I'm sure a lot of this is public knowledge, but nevertheless, our chief guest, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, was born in London in 1956. Dr. Tharoor graduated from St. Stephen's College, Delhi in History Honours and was the president of the Students' Union Society and contributed immensely to the Shakespeare Society and founded the Quiz Club of the college. Thereafter, he attended the Fletcher School of Diplomacy in the United States, completing a PhD in 1978 at the age of 22. The youngest ever to hold a PhD in the history of the Fletcher School, and that record has not been broken. Dr. Tharoor worked in different capacities at the United Nations, which included key responsibilities in peacekeeping after the Cold War and serving as senior advisor to the Secretary General, in addition to his role as Undersecretary General for Communications and Public Information. Thereafter, Dr. Tharoor became an MP from Thiruvananthapuram and Minister of State, External Affairs, and later as Minister of State for Human Resource Development, Government of India. Dr. Tharoor was also awarded an honorary D.Litt by the University of Puget, Sound, and a doctorate honoris causa in history by the University of Bucharest. In 1998, the World Economic Forum in Davos named him a global leader of tomorrow. He is also a recipient of several awards that include a Commonwealth Writers' Prize and the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman, India's highest honor for overseas nationals. Recently, he was also awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for 2019. He was awarded in 2019 for his work, An Era of Darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, much awaited, much longed for.
Thank you so much, Principal John Verghese. I really love the much-awaited part, and I know you have been waiting. I was explaining to the distinguished people at the podium that we ran into two unexpected jams. One you always allow for. Two is more than I can manage. One outside Pragati Maidan and the other just behind the Red Fort. And literally for 15 minutes, the traffic didn't move in any direction. There's nothing we could do. So just want to apologize. I realize you have been waiting. Bishop Boris Masih, Mr. Alan Masih, Mr. Reggie Abraham, and of course our very distinguished principal who's initiated this marvelous idea of a public policy and international relations program here. And of course teachers, fellow alumni, and dear friends, above all the students. It's good to be with you all. Wonderful to be back at this college. Great to hear the principal recounting some of my academic accomplishments, such as they were. One tends to forget, I must say. Everything matters terribly to you when you're in the middle of studying and seeing those marks on the bulletin board. I did manage to top the university, and it was always, at that point, the single greatest accomplishment of your life. And then, to your dismay, you discover that in the real world it doesn't matter so much. You don't actually care very much afterwards of what you've done. But when you're here, it's worth striving for, and I have those memories. I must admit, a lot of my college memories are actually from outside the classroom. Particularly by my final year, my attendance was so bad that my parents were shocked to get a letter from the principal. But I did, get elected president of the union. I ran the debating society in the previous year, acted in various plays, including playing
Antony to Mira Nair playing Cleopatra. And I remember one of my more acerbic critics in college writing a review in Cooler Talk, describing me playing Antony as a flippant, underfed Romeo. I've tried not to lose the flippancy, but the underfed part is sadly gone. So life moves on. But you know, there were always the movies, the dhabas. I think the dhabas have disappeared. The ones across the street that I remember is keeping the mess food to. In fact, I would say my single most popular achievement as President of the Union was improving the mess food. And the gentleman I appointed as the mess secretary, who promptly did a lot to improve the food here, went on to become our controller and auditor general, which is what he is today. So you can see that serving the St. Stephen's College cabinet augurs well for your future career. And then there was above all the sense of the extraordinary eclecticism and pan-Indianness of the Stephanian experience. I have to tell you that it was for me, as the son of Keralites who had come out of a high school in Calcutta and was coming to Delhi really for the first time in any extended, meaningful sense of it. It was a revelation. I mean, we literally had people from every state of the country in my time. Kashmiri classmates, Naga classmates, Lakshadweep classmates, or at least one anyway, as well as people from every conceivable sort of interest, as well as obviously every conceivable religion. And what united us was the Stephanian experience, and what we thought of when we saw our friends was never their religion, their caste, God forbid. Most of us had no idea what people's caste was, nor was it in any way the identity markers that, to my own surprise, have become so important in our country's collective consciousness of late. Instead, it was other factors. You know, that guy's a hockey type, or that chap's a but there we had it. It was identifying people by their sport, by female attention, which was not available in the vicinity. These guys here don't know how spoiled they are by comparison. And that sense that that what unified us was a different set of issues, aspirations, strivings, emotions, passions around the Stephanian ethos. That, I think, was the most abiding and valuable legacy of my years in college. And when I think about all that, I realize how much it shaped my view of life and of India. I've spent almost now culminating 3 decades next year as a writer. I'm proud to say that the consistent strain of thought in my books, celebrating the diversity of India, celebrating the eclecticism of India, a proud patriotism but anchored not in one region, not in one religion, not in one caste, not in any one narrow identity, but in the values of oneness that were inculcated in me during my years at St. Stephen's College. Those are things that I think enable me to say with pride that this college has marked me in many ways and has helped contribute to whatever legacy I in turn can leave behind. And so when I speak about that, I inevitably have to turn to what I have seen in recent days of the spirit of social consciousness and democratic process within St. Stephen's College. On Wednesday, I know that many of your students walked out of college to join a protest march in solidarity with the students of JNU who were so cruelly and brutally assaulted on Sunday, and to protest against the blatantly discriminatory Citizenship Amendment Act and the intended NRC. And coming from a famously and largely apolitical campus, this was a very rare event. But there seemed to be something very Stephanian about the fact that the protest consisted of reading out the preamble to the Constitution, not throwing stones or shouting offensive slogans. I believe chanting Faiz Hamde Kenge was amongst the other spiritual things to do. I have to say that when I was president, we had a the Jayaprakash Narayan movement that then culminated in what became the emergency the following year. And a number of my fellow students asked if we could participate. And I said, look, we are a non-political union. It would not be right for us as a union to participate. We didn't belong to the Delhi University Students' Union. But I said, I will not stand in the way of individual members of the union, of the cabinet even, going to participate in these rallies, but not doing so on behalf of the union. That way we squared the circle. And many have at that point told me that it showed a certain lack of conviction on my part. Others have told me that it showed an ability to walk the tightrope effectively between remaining non-political. By the way, it was my union and me personally who brought about the amendment to the Constitution that actually introduced the word union. It used to be the St. Stephen's College Society until 1974, when my union asked for the word union to be inserted, simply because we felt that merely having a college society would have lacked all credibility as a representative body of students. And that the amendment to the Students' Body Constitution goes back to that year. But I say this simply because we've come a long way since then. And I have no doubt that my successor, 45 years removed, if he or she decided to actively walk out, that too is a defensible. Those who did walk out and march and protest reignited a historic tradition of this college. One mustn't forget that St. Stephen's was the location where Gandhiji gave the clarion call for the non-cooperation movement. It wasn't something that the college made much of a song and dance about, but it's a historical fact. Dean C.F. Andrews was on the faculty of St. Stephen's and was one of Gandhiji's closest associates. And when Gandhiji did that, the British did not hesitate to make their displeasure clear, but the then principal, Sushil Kumar Indra, stood firm. And similarly, at the height of the Quit India movement, many Stephanians were involved in joining the Quit India agitation, along with other students at DU. And when the Viceroy, no less, wrote to the Vice-Chancellor to ask for stern action against them, I must say Vice-Chancellor Wire, after whom Wire Hall is named, wrote back defending the students. So there is very much both a tradition of standing up for larger causes than oneself or even one's own studies, as well as a respect for that tradition in the history of our college and our university. And I would say that the fact that these protests have transcended the limitations of traditional politics and have underlined the importance of youth as torch bearers of the true constitutional spirit of India, that is something that we can celebrate in college today. It's marvelous. I mean, I'm a politician now, and I myself have led a few rallies against the CA, but I will admit that the rallies I have led essentially consisted of political party workers. What the students have done is spontaneous, it's not organized by political parties for the most part, and it's been done because they care, because you want to say that the India that you have grown up to value and cherish and that you want to inherit as you leave this college, that India needs to be defended at all costs. It's unfortunate that the ruling dispensation saw these developments, these protests, as a threat rather than as the expression of genuine feeling, and they have chosen to try to intimidate and clamp down upon this either via the police or in JNU shamefully through thuggish proxies such as the ABVP. And I have to say in all pride that this is a far cry from what previous governments would have done. Dr. Manmohan Singh, just when he was Prime Minister, was assailed in JNU and shown black flags and condemned for his economic policies. And he said, look, I don't agree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. Indira Gandhi, there's a photograph going around that's been misrepresented by the BJP types. Some of you may have seen it on social media, of Sitaram Yechuri reading a piece of paper to Indira Gandhi, I know Sitaram, and I know many of the students who were there at that time. And what he was doing was reading out a letter of protest and demands to the Prime Minister of India. He was the Student Union President. The BJP version is that he was being punished by Indira Gandhi and made to read a letter of apology, nothing of the kind. But the fact is that since we have a government that doesn't particularly value historical accuracy and likes to rewrite history at every turn, such misrepresentations are likely, which is one of the reasons why you need a good history program. And professors will ignite enough love in the subject for you to go out and read beyond what's in your textbooks. When you do that, it seems to me that you will quickly develop the frame of reference and the context to discredit some of the lies that are sought to be peddled in the name of history. But let's talk specifically about this public policy program created through a generous endowment made by Mr. Reggie Abraham. In many ways, this is a welcome development for the college. It reflects a commendable willingness of the college to evolve its curriculum in line with the requirements of the 21st century and I would argue of contemporary education as well. You know, traditionally, the idea of public policy as a program of study, a concentration or a course, this has been largely monopolized in the West and particularly in the US. The most famous example, of course, is Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, which has, since the 1970s alone, produced, listen to this, 17 heads of state and government, numerous other cabinet ministers and other senior leaders who occupy top positions in governments around the world, as well as in civil society and private industry. Today, all the Ivy League colleges and many other top universities in the States have developed public policy programs of their own, made possible, of course, in the American way by very generous endowments from foundations and private philanthropists, which we have tended not to do in the Indian educational system. And that's why I'm doubly pleased both that Reggie Abraham has come forward and that John Burgess and the College Board of Governors has seen fit to accept this endowment. It's not what we've done in the past. We've had people donating prizes, but never entire programs, and I think this is an extremely, extremely welcome development. In the US, according to the Network of Schools of Public Policy Affairs Administration, there are 285 institutions for public policy education in the US alone. And the number is still growing, whereas in India, to the best of my awareness, there are only 3 or 4 institutions, all established within the last 5 years, by the way, that claim to be offering courses in public policy. So I think St. Stephen's would be probably the 5th. But the fact is that many of these are yet to develop a proven track record because they're so new. So the chance of becoming, if not the first, certainly the foremost and the best, is very much available to us. Now, what's interesting is that after the Americans took this runaway lead in developing public policy programs, others tried to follow suit. The British were fairly quick, and in 2010, Oxford University, the alma mater of 26 British prime ministers, opened the doors of something called the Blavatnik School of Government. If you think Blavatnik is not a good traditional Oxonian name, you're quite right. It was actually a Ukrainian oligarch, Len Blavatnik, who contributed 75 million pounds to Oxford University to set up that program, and I imagine they built a separate building for it. So Reggie Abraham, there's a hint as well. But now the idea has spread, and in Singapore, many of you may have heard of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore, obviously not West-centric, very Asia-focused, which opened its doors in 2004. So the idea of public policy education, public policy programs is spreading. Why the focus on public policy increasingly? The original catalyst behind such programs was to develop a new breed of policymakers, who would be individuals who would be intricately connected to the realities they lived in and who would create sustainable and impactful solutions for problems within society. In fact, I must say that many of the Western public policy programs initially only accepted mid-career admissions. It wasn't a straightforward undergraduate program ever, or even a straightforward graduate program. Very often it was people who'd had some years of work experience and wanted to develop the intellectual and academically rigorous framework that would lead them to do their jobs better. That's changing, and it's become more of a straightforward academic program now, but as any nation developed, a growing need is often felt for leaders who can navigate between the obligations of government, the necessities of dealing with the private sector, understanding the way the private sector functions and thinks, and of course the needs and demands of the Aam Aadmi, the common man or woman, to help chart a way forward for the nation. My friend Anne-Marie Slaughter, who was the former dean of the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy and International Affairs, she said in an intriguing comment recently, public policy schools used to be much more about how to translate ideas into solutions to practical problems. And I said, why used to? I mean, why would they used to be like that? Why shouldn't they? And it turns out there have been two fundamental criticisms with the way public policy programs have worked so far, particularly in America. One is that they have indeed become far less solutions-oriented. In other words, the majority of graduates from these American public policy programs have tended to end up in industry and in the private sector. Now this in itself may not be a bad thing, but it's meant that schools, instead of becoming springboards for government leaders, have become launching pads for managers rather than solution makers or policy makers. And public policy has inadvertently become a camouflage for a kind of management course, in turn depriving the US of change agents in politics. In fact, half these people end up going into jobs in corporations which give them titles like in charge of government relations, which means basically, instead of public relations, it means buttering up politicians and bureaucrats. I'm not sure that's necessarily a worthwhile accomplishment. But the second criticism seems to be an ideological one, because public policy programs were originally born and invested in an idea of a globalized world order. And this came in the aftermath of the horrors of the two world wars, the introduction of the nuclear endgame, first of all, the horrors of the Holocaust, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the tensions of the Cold War, and the fear that any time now the world would erupt again in a third world war. I mean, I remember going to Fletcher, which was my public policy school, the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, in 1975, and finding out that the cellars were still designated bomb shelters in the event of a nuclear attack on the United States. And there were still cartons of, by then decaying crackers and so on to help you survive. It seemed pointless, because if there had been a nuclear blast in the vicinity of the school, I imagine that you would run out of crackers before you could come out and breathe the radiated air. But be that as it may, that was the tradition. I think then with détente and so on, they converted the cellars back into cellars. But I'm just saying that these things existed. That was a real fear that people had. But the idea was, in very, very many ways, to develop individuals who are capable of seeing the larger picture, the benefits of a liberal, cosmopolitan, and globalized world. And then if you fast forward to today, where populism is a trend, increasingly, and that to ethno-nationalist populism, chauvinistic ideas have taken root in many countries in the West. Strongmen have firmed up their political capital, and isolationism is stalking even the US. So the US, which for the longest time had been the standard bearer of globalization, had asked everyone to try and come along with their almost missionary zeal for spreading the merits of liberal democracy and capitalism around the world, and open trade and so on, and as well appointed themselves in the role of global policemen. All of that, I have to say, has given way to a very different USA today. And it's a world marked by a twin backlash, an economic backlash and a cultural backlash against globalization, in a world where democratic processes seem to be more and more subverted. So one could well ask, if this is what has happened to the world, despite the US having 285 public policy schools, they end up with a Donald Trump, then why has this public policy education not managed to stem and address these trends? Now that's a whole different question altogether. But then one turns to, why do we want public policy schools in India? I think, first of all, because we're coming relatively late to the game, we can learn from what the Americans did right and did wrong. and we can take a public policy approach that is much more anchored in real solutions to real Indian problems. And I think that one of the things that we could do is actually use public policy, not just for academic study, but to consciously seek to develop a new leadership coming out of these programs that is invested in solutions. India's come a long way since 1947, but we really can't afford to forget the circumstances we had to overcome. To get what we have, we've been reduced. I've talked about this before, and particularly in my book, The Era of Darkness. I've given you the facts and figures in some detail, but way back in 1700, we had 27% of global GDP. In 1800, we accounted for 23% of global GDP. By the time the British left, it was down to around 3%, and we had, of course, been reduced into one of the poorest, most backward, the most illiterate, and most diseased societies on earth. So it had been a particularly trying time that brought us to independence. From 1900 to 1947, the rate of growth of the Indian economy was not even 0.01%. Population was growing steadily at over 3.5%. We had 17% literacy. And looking at what is now a co-education college, let me point out that female literacy under the British had reached just 8.8%. In other words, you put 13 Indian women in a room, and you'd be lucky to find one who could read and write. Practically no domestic industry. Life expectancy was 26. Can you imagine an Indian born in 1947 could expect to live to the ripe old age of 26? And in 90% of our population lived below what we would today call the poverty line. So the impoverishment of India was the starkest reality that India's leaders had to face. Now, we have every reason to be discontented with where we are today, but we've come a colossally long way from those figures. The 90% poverty line has gone to about 26 today, and it had even dropped to 23 under the UPA government. We had that life expectancy of 26, which is now closer to the biblical 70, it's almost 70 today. Female literacy is up to about 70%, and male literacy is in the 80s. We're seeing some very, very significant transformations, slowly but steadily, over these 72 years since independence. And at the same time, we have to recognize that the challenges of public policy are still immense. We haven't solved everything. The daily terrors of poverty, of pestilence, of patriarchy, of pollution, all of these are still realities for the majority of Indians. Inequality and chronic issues of corruption persist. The concerns of malnutrition, our relatively unevenly developed infrastructure, the healthcare systems, manifest inadequacies. All of these call for leaders attuned to the public policy challenges of our time. And leaders who are at the same time anchored in India, comfortable with dealing with the peculiarities of the Indian system, dealing with uniquely Indian problems. Take economics, for example. Thank you, sir. All our policy choices in this country are, or maybe I should say have been, made in a democracy. And that too, a democracy with a majority of poor voters. So every MP, like me, represents a constituency where a majority of his or her voters lives on less than the World Bank poverty line of $2 a day. And that applies to South Delhi and South Bombay as well. We are all representing a majority of people who are living beyond what the global poverty line stands in. And so, the fact is that basic issues of survival, of redistribution, of welfare are unavoidable. The BJP in 2014 ran against welfareism. Today, they become the only thing they can point to in terms of accomplishments as welfare policies. We are in a situation in which the Indian reality is, whereas most other democracies grew economically first and became democratic later, we are the one major economy that was democratic first and tried to grow on the backs of that. There was no real universal suffrage when most Western democracies were beginning to prosper during the Industrial Revolution. Whereas we, of course, are trying to make policies on the back of votes of people who are mainly poor. And therefore, it's not the majority of taxpayers who are influencing Indian economic policy, which is what was the case in Western democracies. It's the majority of voters, and the majority of voters are not taxpayers because they don't earn enough to pay taxes. And that's just simply one example of an Indian reality which is so different from what you'll study in a public policy program in Harvard or in Oxford. And so it's important to understand how India makes public policy choices in a totally different ecosystem from those of Western countries. And because we have been a democracy, and because the majority of voters are poor, that may explain why a lot of our policies have been redistributive rather than growth-oriented. And at the same time, we also understand why members of parliament will constantly support such policies, because they have a responsibility to the majority of their voters. And look at the other paradoxes that Indian public policy makers are dealing with. We like to think of ourselves as an ancient civilization, but we are also a young republic. Our IT experts are striding confidently into the third decade of the 21st century, but much of our population still seems to live in each of the other 20 centuries. And quite often, as I've had occasion to remark before, the opposites exist quite cheerfully. In one of my books, I wanted a cover image, which in fact the publishers refused to go along with my choice. But some of you are too young to have seen it. It went around the internet, not at the time of this Kumbh Mela, but the one in the middle of the previous decade, the Mahakumbh Mela at that time. But it was such a fabulous picture. It was a naked sadhu, Hindu holy man, right out of central casting. You know, ash-smeared forehead, Rudraksha mala on his bare chest, warts on his face, absolutely not a stitch of clothing visible. And here he had this, long matted hair, warts on his face, and this kind of almost blank expression as he's staring into the distance, almost like a Hollywood central casting kind of picture of timeless otherworldliness. Except that in this photograph, this naked sadhu is also chatting away on a mobile phone. And that, to me, was part of the essential paradox of India that we have to understand. The reason the publishers didn't want it on the cover of my book is they said it's too much of a cliche. But in fact, cliches are cliches because they are true and often. And the truth is that India is indeed an amazingly paradoxical society, a place where bullock carts are still an indispensable means of transportation for millions, and yet which became the first country in the world to succeed on its first attempt to launch a Mars orbiter, to put it in orbit around Mars. So these paradoxes are the stuff of public policy concerns too. Our teeming cities overflow while 2 out of 3 Indians are still scratching a living from the soil. We have been recognized for all practical purposes as a leading nuclear power, but we all know that over 200 million Indians, 240 million Indians still have no access to electricity, and even those of us who do have to live with daily power cuts. I had this so-called privileged life in a government sarkari bangla in Lutyens, Delhi, and I go through 5 power cuts a day. Sometimes they're as short as 30 seconds, sometimes as long as 3 hours. But there's not one day in the last 11 years I've occupied this house that I haven't had power cuts. Now, why can't we get something as basic as that right? That's another issue, but that's a public policy challenge as well. There's so many losses in the power sector. Roughly 23% of the power that India generates is wasted in transmission and distribution. So we have to figure out how to do all of these things right in the context of our country. We are the world's leading manufacturer of generic medication for illnesses like TB and AIDS. And yet look at how many of our own people are suffering. 3 million of our citizens don't have access to AIDS medication. There's more than 2 million with drug-resistant tuberculosis, tens of millions who have no healthcare center or primary health clinic within 5 kilometers walk of their places of residence. And we are spending 1.2% of our GDP on public health, in comparison with China spending 3% of a much larger GDP, and the US spending 8.3% of their massive GDP. So again, public policy choices. How are these made? Why are they made this way? Where do we spend our money? Why is it that we hold the world record for the number of cell phones sold every month, but also hold the world record for the number of farmers' suicides every month? How do we manage to reconcile these things? We need educated minds that grapple with these public policy challenges. So I say this to potential entrants of the public policy program, but I say it also to the leaders on the podium who will administer and run this program, that this is the reality that graduates from the public policy program will inherit when they enter the real world. This is the reason, if you like, that they must be willing to learn from the college and learn from the public policy program to acquire the tools to address these kinds of challenges. At the same time, even as we're clear on why policy matters are intrinsic to the success, the development, the progress of our country and our people, how you can address these public policy challenges and how you can contribute to addressing them requires being capable of thinking in an organized, educated, trained way, and at the same time to see the challenges of nation building in a holistic sense. As I've said earlier, the spirit of this college has been a wonderful spirit. I believe and have the faith that it continues to be a college that stands for and represents all of India in all its diversity and richness, that teaches the value, invent the it was started in '69 by my predecessors, but the fact that St. Stephen's has been the forefront of a lot of and now there are thousands of Quiz Clubs around the country. Ours was the first one on any college campus in India. And why has St. Stephen's been the forefront? Because we understand that there is more to a university education than what you learn in the classroom. That capacity to look at the larger picture, that capacity to understand that there is a larger world to which college is preparing you to enter, and that capacity to value the importance of making a mark in that larger world through what you have studied and accomplished here. That is what St. Stephen's instilled in most of us. So I would urge you all to think very seriously about the value of this program, to support it well, to also look at the global picture, even if right now the globe seems to be in retreat into more and more of what the Gore called narrow domestic walls. They're hiding, literally in the case of Mr. Trump, there is a wall. But I think that India can still rise back to the great vision that Nehruji articulated back in 1947 in his Tryst with Destiny speech. Nehruji, while the flames of partition were blazing around the land, he was saying that my dreams are not for India alone, but for the world. He said the problems of this world are indivisible. And that kind of vision has always been animating India's approach. I'm planning to mark my being here as your chief guest by presenting a copy of my newest book, which is actually only published next week, The New World Disorder and the Indian Imperative, to the college, where the public policy program has its own shelf in the library, or has its own library, something that may well be useful to the readers and the college students, because in many, many ways, it's important to also bear in mind the global system into which India is fit. And that's why the book is called The New World Disorder and the Indian Imperative, because I think there is an imperative for Indians to rise up to the challenges and take on some of the responsibilities that others, notably the US and others, are abdicating and moving away from. We have to do our very best. St. Stephen's College will, I'm sure, as always, do its very best. And I wish you all great success in making the public policy program a lodestar in the educational and scholarly. So much for calling me. Good luck with the program.
Every single one of you will agree that that was brilliant, it was insightful, and useful. Dr. Taru, thank you from all of us. Thank you for launching our first program in public policy. I'll very quickly extend my thanks to people who have made this possible. I'll start with Dr. Tharoor, thank you for your time. We know that you are an extremely busy and responsible person, but we acknowledge with great gratitude the time that you have given us and your interest in the growth and development, not just of college, but of future generations across the world. Thank you very much. Mr. Reggie Abraham, thank you for your generosity. Thank you for making this endowment in college, the chair in public policy, possible. We're very grateful for what you have done. To our chairman and the general secretary of the Church of North India, I extend my thanks and gratitude for your presence and your time here. But before I say thank you to all of you, it's very important that we acknowledge Dr. Tharoor's presence here, and for that I would request Mr. Blessing Matthew to come forward and to present a bouquet from all of us to Dr. Tharoor. Wealth of learning. Thank you. May I now request our chairman, our donor, and the general secretary to together present a small memento from college to Dr. Tharoor. And it has made a difference to this program, to the future of this program, to the young people who are registered to study on this program. Thank you very much. The launch of the Center for Advanced Learning, the launch of the Chair in Public Policy, and the launch of the program is done. Thank you very much. As the dignitaries walk down to their positions in the front row, may I request our 36 young, new candidates to come up on stage for a photograph. Please come up. With all of us, with all of the dignitaries here. Please come up on stage. You can use the ramp there. And while they come on the doors, the guests, faculty and students who are here can step out to the lawns, to the library lawns for a cup of tea, and guests, faculty and students who are on that side may step on to the mess lawns for a cup of tea that side. We'll take a moment.
Let them finish. Then he will banish them.
That was my knowledge. I had to give you your weight.
Pano mode and all.
Don't go to
Once I got with the only time I